Welcome to ShiftedLands 108.2, Path of Zen, which is technically not a path, but it might as well be a path. Okay, so the Path of Zen is the physical side of psionics, where the Path of Will, which is also not a path, is kind of the throwing packets and like magic. So if you think of like sorcery and spirit as magic, well, it is magic. That's like what the Path of Will is typically doing. And then if you think of knavery and weapon mastery, that's what Zen is doing. So if you kind of split the normal pools up into two, like the fighting pools and the magic pools, the Zen pool and the Will pool are the other sides of the coin for the psionics at least. However, Path of Zen is unlike the lower pools in that it is inherently restrictive and you have to fundamentally build your character around it. There is no if and or buts about this. It blocks out your ability to pick up like half of the game. And we're going to see why. We're just going to jump right into meditation, okay? This is the melee side of psionics, but it's not like the will tree where you can just pick up psionic endurance and use it. The Path of Zen, you almost have to build your character concept around being a Zen user, okay? Um, for the longest time, me and another character were the only people doing Zen, and now since the Great Plague happened, there's actually like 4 people doing Zen, not counting myself, which is awesome. A ton of other people got into it. They reworked it and made it a little bit more appealing. And I think that got enough people to be like, yeah, I'll try it out. I'll make another character to try out this path, pseudo path. It's not actually a path, but it might as well be one. And we're gonna see why. But yeah, Path of Zen, pretty cool. We're gonna look into the first skill, meditation. Costs not available. Very funny. Prerequisite 25 psionic endurance. Okay, you need 25 psionic endurance to be able to pick up meditation. Which isn't too big of a deal. You want 25 psionic endurance. It's not a problem for the most part, okay? Being opens themselves to learning the way of Zen. We're going to see a fat paragraph here, which is a really sucky paragraph to read, but blah, blah, blah. In order to prepare one's mind, other distractions must be let go. May sit still for 10 minutes with eyes closed, attempting to relax and center oneself. If the character... Okay. This is the whole skill. So essentially, this skill reads you can sit down and meditate for 10 minutes and nothing happens. You caught that, right? This is a 10 build skill that does nothing. Now, if you read Bard, or if you watched the Bard Advanced Path video, you'll note that they had a similar skill that quote unquote did nothing. They had performance, which was just a mechanical way to let them say, you're performing, okay? Meditation is very similar to that. It's just you're meditating. Like any character can pick up, like can sit down and sit still and meditate like IRL, right? Like any person can do that. But but meditation is a skill you pick up so that way you can do it mechanically, okay? Now, you're like, okay, well Bard got that skill for literally 0 build. Like it cost 0 build to pick it up. You just had to have the prerequisites of like 25 research or something, right? So this has 25 psionic endurance is a prerequisite. That's fine. Like, cool. You spend 10 build for it. Okay. And then it also gives you 3 detriments. It gives you 3 detriments. You spent 10 build to get to pay for 3 detriments and do nothing. Okay, this skill is dummy bad, and it used to be worse. They reworked it kinda. It used to be even worse. Now granted, the three detriments are detriments that you get that also give you build back. You get the cannot wear armor detriment, which is found on certain racials, and you get cannot focus, one of the worst detriments in the game, and unrestricted movement, which is an detriment. It's a lose more detriment, whatever. Um, Character may meditate anytime they are conscious and not hindered in movement. If you're attacked while meditating, the meditation is broken. Obviously, if you get attacked while you're like sitting still, it screws up your meditation. That it makes sense. Uh, okay, and then we'll jump into unrestricted movement. If at any time you become unconscious or hindered in movement, willingly or not, so this includes all of the CC spells, all of the you're binded, all of the webs, all of the entangles, imprison, impenetrable fortress, uh, putting yourself in a maelstrom, okay, magical maelstrom here, which is something you do offensively, like it's planting your feet, okay, willingly or not, limb as soon as you lose a limb, etc. Active beneficial Zen effects gone. Zen powers, unless otherwise noted, cannot be utilized while restricted to movement. Poop, poof, gone. Okay? You lose a limb, gone. All of your skills, can't use them. Okay? And, by the way, picked up cannot focus. Now you're like, well, what the heck do you mean? I'm meditating. I'm literally focusing while I'm meditating. And you're like, nah, man. It's not like the mental focus, it's the mechanical focus. So, if you understand upper pools and the upper pool video, which I highly go recommend that you go look at uppers, foci, and augments or something, I think is the name of the video, uppers and foci, okay? You need a mechanical skill that costs 5 build called a focus to be able to access upper pool, okay? I have no idea why cannot focus is not listed here, but unrestricted Zen movement is. Cannot wear armor, I think, is 3 build. I'm pretty sure it's like 3 free build. Unrestricted is 5, and cannot focus is also like 5. So you get, by the way, you get back the 10 build that you spent on meditation when you threw the detriments. Okay, like makes sense. It's not actually a costed skill. You just have to have the 10 build to be able to enter it. But yeah, cannot focus reads something to the. It reads some. It reads like this character may not ever learn the focus skill, which is the skill you learn to be able to access upper pools for any of the pools. And then at any point you had a focus, because there's ways to get focuses not by skills, but by spells. Uh, all of your stuff does not work until that focus is removed from existence. So the main one being Staff of Sorcery. If you summon a Staff of Sorcery, which works as a focus, it is thus a focus for yourself, and all of your stuff does not work until that focus is gone. Okay. Uh, which sucks. Okay. It means you can't have Rogue. It means you can't have Adept, and it means you can't cast Rituals. Okay. So you can't have Rogue. You can't have Adept. You're stuck at the lower pools, which is like okay. Like weapon mastery, not that bad. Knavery, definitely not bad. So you could have a boatload of knavery and a boatload of weapon mastery, and you can have, if you're a caster, you could have boatloads of spirit and boatload of sorcery. It's not as terrible as it sounds at first glance, but it's pretty fucking awful. Not going to lie to you, pretty bad. Not being able to have rogue, pretty shit. Um, and later on, you get dodge. You get feints you can dodge. So you're not really losing out on the dodge part of rogue. Okay. What you're actually missing out on is auto deflects and auto parries and magic deflects. Your answer to so if you're a rogue, you have dodge, which is your big one. You do it for 10 when it's like your last resort. But if somebody hits you with a Vorpal Slay, you go auto deflect or auto parry if you're an adept, right? you have an option to do that for 5 instead of 10 for the dodge, right? Like, because dodge works against everything, but you also have these other defenses which are cheaper, which works against certain attacks that you would use instead of dodging for everything, okay? The thing that Zen does is it dodges for almost everything, okay? So a Sever Limb, a Vorpal Slay, a regular Slay, any of the fight enders, your answer is 99% of the time dodge, okay? It's weird, it's unique. It makes your defenses pretty neat, honestly, pretty neat. Uh like dodging, just having to say dodge whenever, like, your only defense is typically dodge most of the time. I play a Nullifidian Zen user, so if you weren't a Nullifidian Zen user, you would have other defenses like repel weapons, shield magics, phases, etc. Right? Like you'd have other defenses that you could use, which is pretty good most of the time. Being a Nullifidian is cool. We'll probably talk about that at the end once we go over the skill set and why I went Zen Nullifidian. Um, and if you thought I was going to cover Zen and not talk about Nullifidian, you are damn wrong because it's real good. You take the shittiest path, which is quote unquote Zen. Zen is a pseudo path. Oh yeah, sorry. That actually is a very good point. Cannot focus means that you can't pick up any of the freaking advanced paths. All of the advanced paths are uppers requirement. Like base requirement is uppers. You know what the only one is that doesn't require uppers? Bard. So theoretically, you could be a Zen Bard, and that's it. So Zen, it might as well say it's an advanced path, but it technically isn't because you can be a Zen and a Bard, which I totally will be doing. I'm learning actively how to play the harmonica. Um, I'm gonna be a Nullifidian who sings the blues. Anyway, we're gonna start getting into the skills because we're 12 minutes into this video. But yeah, cannot focus. Fat detriment. Makes this thing might as well be a advanced path. But you could also pick up Bard, which actually very very relevant. Because you pick up research. Let's see. I don't know if I don't know where it's said, but you cannot. It's not on the new website. Okay, so this is the new website. This whole website here. This is the new website, and it doesn't say that you cannot be taught these things. See how it says available at character creation? Okay. Uh, it. I don't know where it says. All right. Okay. Yeah. So the last skill is called Zen Mastery. Blah blah blah. Lets you heal, but and you may now ask. You may teach the Zen path. Okay. You can't teach this skill unless you can't teach this whole skill set unless you're a master. That means if you have meditation and hands and feet, okay, like which is the first skill you pick up, and your buddy has faint, then your buddy is also a Zen guy and has faint. He can't teach you all these other skills until he has Zen mastery. Which means you need a Zen master to teach you Zen skills. It's a pseudo shitty thing. It used to be even worse than that because it used to be that nobody could teach you Zen skills and everything had to be self-researched, which was fucking awful. Absolutely horrible. It is no longer like that, and I will no longer complain about it. But let's just say I had to research every single one of these skills by myself. It was bad. Um, and so typically when you were Zen, you not only picked up psionic endurance, but you picked up research, which is what Bard uses. We talked about research a little bit when we talked about Bard. I think that was 107.1 It was the first path video. 107.1, I believe, is Bard. Go look at Bard if you want to learn what research really is. But you had to spend 10 times the build cost to be able to pick up a that you had to spend 10 times the build cost in research over the course of multiple games typically to pick up a single skill by yourself. So I sat on 50 research or 25 research for the longest time, and every like 2 games or 3 games or 4 games I would pick up a single skill, which means I sat around with hands and feet, equilibrium, evade, and TK. I sat on these 4 skills for like a hot minute, and it was dog shit awful. Okay, was not fun. But theoretically, when they made this, the idea was that you had research for yourself, okay, and you had to research it yourself for the most part, because it says cannot teach the Zen path, or it says like once you're a master you can teach the Zen path. There's nothing in here that says that you can't research it yourself. So typically I was one of 2 Zen people in the game, and who knows when the other Zen guy was going to show up. So I had research so I could be actively learning skills by myself for like forever. Um like multiple years of my real lifetime. Uh, but you had research and you spent it on these things to be able to learn skills. So the point was that you had research, and then when you're a master, you can spend that because you have all the skills now. What would you ever possibly spend all that research on now? Now that you have all the skills you need, well, you get to remaster every single one of the skills in the skill tree. To relearn them again, but this time they do something different, and all of those effects are foig. Foig. Find out in game. Uh, they are not on this website. They are not on the whatchamacallit. Um, I am super close personally to meditation. Is the last skill that I have not fully researched yet. I have not fully mastered it. So I'm a Zen master. I have Zen mastery skill on my skill sheet, but I am not yet fully mastered every skill. I haven't read whatever meditation's mastery is. So essentially, all of these skills, the long and short of it is that every one of these skills gets better in a different way, kinda. They kind of get better. So when you see this base, like on the website, the base skills all together, like you're a Zen master, you have all the skills, and you haven't researched anything. Really good, like really solid kit, to be honest. Like 8 out of 10 would play Zen again. Pretty solid kit. Zen with all of the masteries, actually kind of good. Like kind of really good. I will leave it at that. Now we're gonna actually get into the skills. Hands and feet. Zen gains the use of long and short claws. Upon purchase for 5 build. So claws on racial claws is 4 build. This is 5 build. The Zen practitioner has learned to strike with such precision that their unarmed strikes are both considered blunt and edged, just as though they had claws. Not affected by movement restriction. So specifically, you can still use your hands and feet when you're like pinned to the ground or when you're using an impenetrable fortress, whatever. These weapons are considered claws for other abilities like racials. So if a ghoul had base claws from Zen, for some reason they could use it, which is super relevant on my character, but it's not too relevant on other ones. Punch is a short claw, and kick is a long claw. I always recommend getting a very light long claw fizz rep and then using kick all the time because it's literally just 1 extra damage. I use a punch because I cannot get my whole. I'm actually actively trying to buy a long claw fizz rep for myself. That is crafted very well and is very lightweight. They're typically long claws that you could borrow or rent from Monster Camp are very, very heavy. I'm looking for a long claw that is very long but is also stupidly light. And I have seen them and I know who makes them and I'm actively trying to buy one from them. It just takes time to buy one. But yeah, you use kick every time, and what this represents is you're punching and kicking people. You're a monk. This is the D&D. If you want to be a D&D monk, you go Path of Zen. That is what this is. Okay, it's the monk class. It's not a pathway, but it might as well be a pathway. So it's the pathway that's not a pathway because you can also be a bard, but uh, it's D&D monk class is essentially the archetype that this is fitting into. Okay, hands and feet, really good skill. You get claws. You get claws on any race. So I walked around as a Nullifidian with claws, and people got confused. Like, and this was back before Zen was reworked and before there were like other people playing Zen. So I came in one day, brand new guy. I'm in my first like 2 or 3 months of playing Shifted Lands and LARPing in general, and I'm a Nullifidian walking around with claws, and people are like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, are you a dummy?" Because the common understanding of Zen back in the day was that's a dog shit path, and they were right. Because back then that was before it got reworked, and it was I thought it was really busted on Nullifidian, but other people felt differently most of the time, and they reworked it. Uh, anyway, base one, base two. Okay, we're gonna not talk about hands and feet anymore. Equilibrium. 5 build again. Oh yeah, by the way, 10 build, 10 body. 5 build, 5 body. 5 build, 5 body. Okay? Freaking nuts. This is nuts. Alright? You are getting a 1-to-1 build ratio. Okay? We don't see that in anything but augments and elder skills, like elder athletics, which is like way better, but you're not seeing a 1-to-1 body ratio on any other pathway or any other skill set that isn't a freaking augment, dude. Like, we're getting augment level body. It's actually nuts. Um, very, very good. And it gets even better. It gets even better when you master some of these skills. It actually gets freaking nuts. How much body you get. It's nuts. So you are simultaneously the monk, and you are also theoretically the tank. Um, Mechanically. Equilibrium. Zen gets to add +3 damage to, and this is D&D monk weapons. Okay, this is the monk weapons. D&D body weapons, so your punches and your kicks, or regular claws. Throwing weapons, which is like ninja stars, daggers, other things that you throw, bananas, it's boulders. That's to boulders. And staffs. Not affected by movement restriction. Good to know. So your base swing doesn't change. So staffs, throwing weapons, and body weapons. Typically, if you're Zen, and also keep in mind, does not say cannot use shield, so you can walk around with a shield. I walk around with a shield all the time. I walk around. Theoretically, what you want to do is you want to walk around with a shield and like a long claw, or you want to walk around with 2 long claws. Either one. And then it turns your base damage into 4 or 5, and that's not counting enhanced strength that you get on your race. Uh, And keep in mind, this is like a pathway, pseudo pathway. So you are also becoming an elder of your race if you do this. And like elder race, flesh golem can't get psionics either, but gargoyles can. And there's actually historically there were a lot of Zen gargoyles, I believe, because they get like something dumb like 8 strength if they're an elder, which is super good. And so they're adding like +4 on top of that. So they're doing 4. They're doing 4, 6, adding another 3, and then adding another, yeah, and then adding another 3 on it, which is nuts. They're doing 7, 8, 9. They're doing like 9 damage with their like base with just equilibrium. It's nuts. Mastery of the skill goes hard. That's all I got to say. Evade. Now this is neat. Okay, evade is super weird. This is the equivalent of your. So if Psionic Endurance is your lower pool here, and if you look at the other lower pools for fighting specifically, you have parries at 10, which can block up to 100 and they reduce. So if you get hit with 101 damage and you master parry -100, you still get hit with 1 damage, okay? Evade is mechanically you are Roleplay wise, you are kind of dodging it, quote unquote. Roleplay wise, you're kind of dodging the strike. You're evading the strike. You're not mechanically dodging. Um, at the cost of 1/10 the number of the attack, so it only works against attacks that have numbers, okay? And it has to be a weapon blow. It is a weapon blown numbered attack. You can evade it at the cost of 1/10 of the attack. So if it was 100, damage, you would spend 10 psionic endurance and you would evade it. And you'd say evade. If it was 101, you'd say, and it's rounded up. So if it was 101 damage, it would be effectively as if you were stopping 110 damage if you were evading 110 damage, because you may not uh evade and then, like, just like the parry where you can stop 100 damage and then if it was 101 damage you'd still take the 1 damage. You don't get a choice there. You have to evade all of it, which means that you pay 11 instead of the 10 for a 101. Which doesn't come up very often, to be honest. Like, most of the time it's like, yeah, something like 58 or 56 or 25, and you're rounding it up to 1/10. It's okay. And it also works on strength-based attacks, which is actually nuts. Wing Buffet plus 20 damage, or shoulder block plus 20 strength shoulder block, works on that. Like, keep in mind, 1/10 the cost. If somebody goes shoulder block 20 strength, shoulder block 20 strength twice at you, you're spending 2 apiece to evade that because it's only 20, and you're paying 1/10 of the cost. So you're paying two on the first one and then 2 on the next one. So you're paying a 4 total, okay? Other people's answer to those things are dodge. There is nothing else in the game that lets you kind of like pseudo evade. And keep in mind, you have to, just like the numbers, you have to evade all of it. So it's not like, oh, I have 8 strength and so I'm evading X amount of it to get me to 8 and then I'm resisting with 8. No, you are evading the whole thing, just like with the numbers. You may not choose to evade the less than full the attack. Really good. Mastery of this skill, very simple change, very effective change. Very good. That's all I'm gonna say. Telekinetic armor. Huh? So if you remember, oh yeah, we didn't even talk about how crappy it is. Cannot wear armor when you're a melee fighter. Kinda dog shit. Kinda poo-poo dog shit. You're like, why would I be a melee fighter that can't wear armor? That sounds fucking awful. And you'd be right. If you didn't get a super sick armor that instead of paying money for, you pay build for, which is like kind of a trade-off. I think it's totally worth it though. And it's also smart armor, which is fucking nuts. So for one build and one body, you get 5 points of telekinetic armor, or TK for short. It is only repaired through a meditation. So let's look at what regular armor does. Regular armor takes a minute to repair by patting yourself back, like you're adjusting your armor, you're repairing it, okay? And it can max out at 200, unless you're like a Reaver or something, or a Master Armorsmith, whatever. Most people. It maxes out at 200, and you have to be physically wearing all of that armor, okay? You have to be wearing heavy-ass armor to benefit from the fact that you have an armor tag, okay? And it maxes out at 200, okay? Following with me. And you take 1 minute to repair it in combat, during combat, okay? Meditation is a 1:5 build ratio to armor, and the next skill requires 50 of it. So you have to spend 50 build into telekinetic armor, and it's 250. But just in case you were wondering, 5 times 50 is 250, which means you walk around with 250 points of armor that you don't have to wear. And it's also smart armor. And smart armor essentially means that it's like a smart defense. So if you had a phase, you get to choose when to do that phase, You don't have to just do it right off the bat anytime somebody hits you, like a repel weapon does. But like if you had a phase, you can be like, well, actually, I'm gonna dodge that. I'm not gonna waste my phase on that because I need to save it for something else, right? Something scarier. It's the same thing with armor. So armor stops certain effects like poison damage. So if it was like 50 poison, um, or 50 something, you have smart armor, which means that if you want to hit me, and also gargoyles, they have like elder, they have like 10 threshold, which means that if a gargoyle was wearing regular armor, they would have to lose all of their armor before their threshold starts applying. When you have smart armor, you get to let that 10 go through your armor to your threshold and then no affect it, which is amazing on gargoyles, which is part of the reason why gargoyles, dude, Gargoyle Zen is actually kind of nuts. Like if you're gonna play non-Nullifidian and go Zen, like Gargoyle is like kind of busted. That or Human. Like Human is just like kind of way too good to pass up most of the time. Elder Human is nuts. Uh, but yeah. So you get a walker. So the trade off is that nobody else is spending build on armor unless they're like a channeler picking up mystic armor. Like all of the augments, they spend the build into like their lower pools and then they get like a set of armor for free, kinda. Or like Reaver gets like a bonus to their normal armor. But most people spend in-game money and resources in-game to get armor and then wear it. Um, Zen spends build to get armor, which is like a kind of a bad trade-off. But I guarantee you, it does not honestly feel that bad. I do look at my character sheet and go like, man, this could be 50 more pool. This could be 50 more pool if I could wear regular armor. But it doesn't fit with the aesthetic. Like it's a perfectly fine trade-off. You're getting smart armor, and also all of your smart armor is waylay protected, which is really great. You don't have to wear some crappy helmet to be immune to waylay. Very good skill. Uh, anyway, telekinetic armor. I'm gonna let you read the whole thing. TK armor is only repaired with med. Oh, and you repair it by finishing a 10-minute meditation. Okay. It takes 10 minutes to meditate, which you're not accomplishing that in combat. Trust me, I have literally tried. I have sat in the back of a fight trying to meditate for 10 minutes, and anytime somebody hits you, it gets interrupted. Um, so the trade-off is it's kind of like a weird trade-off. I don't know to say if it's good or bad. I will tell you in my experience, it is a mostly okay thing. Uh, like it's not the worst because a lot of people don't walk around with 250 armor. And the other thing is that you don't have to use your armor away right away. You can take it to your body. And also, you have a 1-to-1 build ratio. So when you bought 50 points of telekinetic armor, you also got 50 body. Let me just. You got 50 extra body for buying your 50 points of armor, or your 250 points of armor. And you also got a crap load of body from all of this. And any of the other skills that you're picking up, like athletics from racials and stuff. Okay. You are tanky as hell. Okay. Most people walk around with less than 200 body. Okay. As a Zen user, you walk around with a lot more than that. So you don't feel bad about it. And if you're not a Nullifidian, you can also go get magical spells. You can get magical armor too. You can get battle armor and create armor, which gives you 40 and 25 respectively. So you walk around with an extra 65 armor that you can refresh instantly. So it's not a big deal if you're not a Nullifidian. If you're a Nullifidian, it sucks. But if you're not a Nullifidian, you still get to walk around with like 65 armor because you get to cast magic. Pretty good, pretty solid. Or you get other people to cast magic on you. And create armor is like 1 and battle armor is like 4. So like pretty good trade off there. Uh, but yeah, don't feel bad about TK. Honestly, it's really okay. The mastery for this was really surprising, honestly. Really surprising what it did. It's neat. It was not what I thought it would be at all. Um, but it's neat, and it's actually really cool that you have it. So that's where I'm gonna leave that at that. Um, hopefully, yeah, it's just neat. Um, agility. So you know how you just spent 50 build into your armor, and you're like, shit, man, I just spent 50 build into my armor, and nobody else spends build into my armor. I wish there was an upside to having my build put into armor. Well, here's the upside. The character may add the amount of build spent on psionic endurance. So at a minimum, that's 25 right now. You probably have a lot more than that, to be honest. You probably have a lot more than that. You probably have like 50, hopefully by now. You probably have like 100-ish. It just gets better too, because like when you get later on, you're gonna have later on when you finish the skill tree, you're gonna dump all your pool into psionic endurance anyway, right? So all of the builds spent on psionic endurance, so your 100 psionic endurance, you get to add it to your armor. For example, you spent 50 build into telekinetic armor and 100 build into psionic endurance, which is pretty typical, honestly. They would have 350 points of armor. So you're like, oh wow, upside. Mastery of this skill, bonkers good. Holy crap, this is a really solid skill to master. That's all I'm gonna say. Feint. The creme de la creme, the best skill in the path. I won't say in the game, but in the path, this is the best skill you have. It's literally dodge from rogue. Uh, so rogues get to dodge for 10, and then there's ways to reduce it. Um, oh, by the way, Illithid does not reduce Zen skills. It only exclusively reduces the costs of will skills. So if you were thinking this whole time that, oh, I'm going to play an Illithid and then I'm going to play Zen and do all the Zen stuff for half, nope. Only the will stuff for half. It's still pretty reasonable to go Zen, um, but note that you're not doing any of this stuff for half. And I think the only thing we've seen so far that costs skill is evade. Yeah, so if you're like just picking up some of this stuff, all you do is spend your psionic endurance on evade. Okay. And feint. So pretty solid. 10 endurance to dodge. And people dodge for 10 rogue pretty oftenly, like it's not bad to be dodging for 10 of a pool. You get dodge. That's literally it. Like you get dodge. It's the best skill and it's one of the best skills in the game. It's in the top 3 best skills in the game. Dodge right there, okay? You get to say it. The problem is that you have numbers down, right? Like evade is kind of dirt cheap compared to like most of the mastery stuff. Like the weapon mastery and the knavery stuff. It's kind of okay. It's like sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better. Um so you've got numbers down and strength based attacks down, okay? And now you have anything that interacts with dodge, okay? But the problem is that you escalate from, oh, they're swinging big numbers at me, to dodge. Which, by the way, when we were talking about this, the mechanical understanding that we were talking about, where it was like 101 damage, where as soon as it's 100 damage, if it's less than 100 damage, okay, you say evade. Just pro tip, Zen player here. If it's 100 damage and you're paying 1/10 the cost of it, so if it's 100 damage, that means it's 10 pool, so you say dodge anyway, so you can just make it easier. So if it's 90 or less, you are saying evade. If it's over 100 damage, you are saying dodge because it's cheaper to dodge. Okay? Just pro gamer tip here. You say dodge if it's over 100 damage. Okay? Pro tip. Don't use more pool than you have to. I learned that lesson the hard way, and it sucked when I looked at my character sheet after the fight, and I was like, shit, I could have just dodged the whole time. Why was I evading these 150s or these 200s when I could have just said dodge? The problem is that between evade and dodge, you don't have. I talked about it earlier, but you don't have like the equivalent of an auto parry. And something that's actually came up quite recently and was just brought to my attention is that you can't dodge for somebody else. Okay? If you're a rogue and you have auto parry or auto deflect, or if you're an adept or a rogue and you have auto parry or auto deflect, you can do that for other people within weapons reach of you, okay? Like you can like, oh, my buddy just got hit with a sever limb and then a Vorpal Slay. I'm gonna auto parry for both of those. So my buddy doesn't die. You have zero equivalent there. You have zero recourse. You have zero recourse to watching somebody else die in front of you. Like you have zero recourse. Like you have master deflect. Like so theoretically, you're playing Zen and you have knavery and weapon mastery because you don't have upper pool. Like so you don't have adept and you don't have rogue. And you're doing Zen, so you're fighting. So I'm not counting magic here. Uh, So if somebody gets slayed in front of you or gets hit with a bunch of numbers in front of you, you can be like master deflect or etc. Or like deflect 20 for my buddy, right? Uh like you can use the lower pools, but as soon as somebody throws a sever limb, master parry doesn't do or master deflect doesn't do anything to a sever limb. You need a upper pool to do that. So you can't help your buddies get when your buddy gets Vorpal Slate in front of you, you can't do anything about it. You literally can't do a single thing about it if your buddy gets Vorpal Slate in front of you. Which came up recently, and it's a very good point. It's a very and this don't take it as a bad thing, but Zen is a very selfish path, quote unquote. It's a very selfish pathway. You are making yourself a reasonably strong character, but the downside is that none of your pool can be expended on other people unless you're like a mage and you get to cast magic on other people. That's pretty good. But you don't have an equivalent of an auto parry or an auto deflect. And that actually is very relevant to know and understand that like that's a trade-off you're making when you do this. Dodge is really good. Holy shit, is the mastery of this skill amazing. You should master this skill first, guys. Not even gonna lie. I won't tell you what it is, but like this is a pretty solid one to master first. Augmented blows, 5 build, 1 cost 1. You pay 1 to swing either pain, which is shit now. It used to be amazing because and this didn't get changed. Well, pain got changed, but this skill didn't get changed. So you used to swing old pain on your damage for 1. So you would be like 10 damage, 10 damage, 10 damage. And keep in mind, back then, if you took a pain effect, you were on the ground dying. Okay? You were on the ground shriveling in pain, couldn't use skill, you were useless. People could killing blow you. Okay? Now it's just shit. Now I never swing pain. It's whatever. This actually just reads you can swing magic through your body weapons for 1 endurance per swing. Pretty solid skill. Mastering this, it costs 5 build. You spend 20. It's worth it to master this. It's not the best one, but it's not the worst one. That's for sure. This is like mastery of this one is pretty okay. But yeah, you get to swing magic when you want to swing magic. And keep in mind, by the way, swinging for magic, not a whole lot of shit that's immune to magic. Very relevant thing, like you'll be fighting elementals, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm a fire elemental. You can't swing fire at me. Eat shit, nerd." And you're like, "Joke's on you, dumbass. I swing for magic." And you swing 1 endurance per type, per swing, which is like kind of nothing. It does add up, but when you master this skill, let's just say you don't worry about it. Pretty good skill. Strike the Mind. You get to pay 3 Psionic Endurance to swing for Psionic Strike Inflict Hatred or Psionic Strike Grant Peace. These mimic Inflict Hatred and Create Peace spells, but are not magical. Which note that these 2 skills were not in this will tree path. The closest was like Friendship, but one is Peace and one is Hate. So the point though is that there's like the spell Hate, which is like it basically just means like, hey buddy, focus me. Okay? And so when we were talking about how like you can't auto parry for other people and how you're getting a 1-to-1 build ratio and you're also walking around with 350 smart armor, you're pretty tanky. So when you think, if you've ever played World of Warcraft, you are the tank class. So like your answer to like, oh my buddy's getting hurt is you go Psionic Strike Inflict Hatred. Hey dumbass, fight me instead of my buddy. Because inflict hatred specifically states like you have to try to gun down the person that inflicted the hatred on you first. And sure, if some people get in the way of you, you can technically attack them too if they're like in your way. But the point of Strike the Mind is that you are a very and keep in mind, this is my opinion, okay? This is my opinion. Other people might interpret this differently. Uh Inflict Hatred is the tank taunt skill. It is the taunt. It is effectively the only taunt in the rulebook that we've seen so far, okay? It is, I'm taunting you, I'm pulling aggro from the monster, so that way my DPS is not getting damaged, okay? Right? Most people roleplay Inflict Hatreds really well. Use at your own caution. Inflicting hatred on a demi-lich sounds cool until you have a demi-lich with inflict hatred and his whole mission and purpose is to dust your character. I laugh at demi-liches, so I tank a demi-lich fight any day of the week. But there's certainly certain fights, like a crocodile who does sever limbs, whose base swing is sever limb. I'm not inflicting hatred on that thing at all, bro. I would lose like all of my limbs if I did. Create Peace is worth a conversation. Create Peace can sometimes be a pseudo fight ender. We're gonna have to read Create Peace, which I believe is a spirit spell. Grant Peace. Target may not initiate combat unless attacked first. Upon being attacked by anyone or anything, spell is broken. Friendly fire will not cause this spell to break. If you are a victim, you have no desire to remove these effects, nor will you ask for it to be removed. Okay. So, you Psionic Strike Grant Peace on a big bad guy, and then they can't initiate combat. So, on some people, some NPCs get hit with a Grant Peace and go like, okay, got me. I'm going to stand here and stare at you. And that's when you grab all your buddies because they can't initiate combat, right? They can't attack you. So you Psionic Strike Grant Peace the thing, make sure none of your buddies hit it, and then you surround it and tell everybody like, hey, make sure to throw a fight under here when we start it up again. And then you start it up again. And then like you smack it with a fight under. And thus combat is initiated again. But now he's surrounded with nowhere to go with all your buddies around him, okay? Like that's kind of why Grant Peace is good. Some NPCs take a Grant Peace and act as if they died. You know, they theoretically died because it's like, because it would be kind of metagamey to just walk around and only Grant Peace things because you'd be like, Grant Peace. And then you yell, so you're fighting a big bad guy or like a minion of the big bad guy and you go, Grant Peace. okay, and they take it, and you turn around really loudly and point out to all your friends, I just pieced this thing, don't hit it, and it won't hit anybody else. You've now effectively stopped a monster in its tracks from hurting your friends. You've effectively, it's a lot harder to say you've effectively killed it, but you've effectively stopped the threat, right, of that particular monster, which means that most of the NPCs are going to go respawn so that they can be doing what NPCs do, and they can be like spawning as monsters and hitting you, right? Like they want to provide that thing. So it'd be really shitty if you have a room, let's say, and you have 4 NPCs that are playing zombies, and you're in a room with 10 zombies in the roleplay sense, okay? And they only have 4 NPCs to represent it, or 5, let's just say 5 NPCs. They have 5 NPCs to represent it, and each one of those NPCs is going to have 2 lives. Well, if you hit it all 4, or if you hit all 5 of them with Grant pieces, theoretically they don't respawn, right? They just sit in that room and do nothing because they can't initiate combat for 10 minutes, right? But roleplay wise, there's 10 zombies in the room, okay? Which means there's theoretically 5 other zombies you haven't dealt with yet. And those were supposed to be represented by the NPC respawning after you killed the first one. So it's kind of shitty to grant peace them and then be like, no, I really want you to stand there. So most of the time, they're supposed to be spawning in waves, or they're elementals getting summoned by an elementalist or some yada yada, right? You want them. They most of the time they will act as if they died and they will go respawn, or they'll say, "Hey, I'm still standing here, but I'm gonna go respawn and play as the other zombie now. And let me know if you want to do anything with that guy's body, because he's standing there and he can't initiate combat against you." Or they'll run away, right? So it's like it's worth a discussion to tell you like how that works, um, because sometimes it's kind of really good. The most non-metagamey way to use it is the first thing that I described, which is you grant peace the thing and then you surround it with your buddies and then you all attack at once, right? Like that's like the best optimal way to use it, I'd say. It's really efficient if you're trying to like knock out NPCs theoretically. I don't know if it was made. That sounds like really gamey to me, to be quite honest, to use it that way, and I don't use it that way. I use it the first way I said, which is like, hey, big bad evil guy, get Grant Peaced, idiot. Like, use a defense on this, because if you get Grant Peaced, you can't kill me. And then we surround you with all my buddies, and then we kill you. Right? So the reason why Grant Peace is good is because most NPCs understand that if you hit them with a Grant Peace, they don't do anything. And you've effectively nullified them. And it's a psionic attack, which means that a lot of things aren't going to have normal defenses for this. So their defense for this is dodge or phase, okay? And you're spending 3 psionic endurance to make something phase or dodge, okay? Which is like 10 pool or whatever they casted the spirit spell or the phase spell for, okay? That's real good. That's real good. Like you're spending 3 psionic endurance to make something dodge? Hell yeah. And cannot be blocked by weapon or shield, just works like anything else that says strike on it. So you can spam these into the shield. You don't care if they block these because it can't be blocked. Like you just spoke Psionic Strike Grand Peace, 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 right? And you just keep hitting them for 3, man, for 3 pull. It's really freaking. And as soon as they take one of those, note that Psionic Strike Grant Peace does not deactivate peace. So if they take the first one, the other 7 after that don't actually break the Grant Peace thing. It's just like a weird. It's an understanding. Because then they'd be like, oh, well, hey, dumbass, I take the first one, and then now I'm back in combat. Ha 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 ha. But the NPC's answer to that, if they're not immune to psionics, is typically like Iron Mind, Phase, dodge the rest. And now you just spent 3 pull per swing to make them dodge like 5 times, which is really good because most monsters don't have more than like 5 or 6 dodges, even the big bad monster guys. Um, so yeah, real good. And there's not a whole lot of defenses to psionics naturally, so it's actually like really good. That's why Grant Peace is good. Most of the time, I'm Grant Piecing rather than inflicting hatred, I would say. Really good skill. Disable body. Oh man, I know we're getting almost to an hour here. I was not intending for this video to go that long. Thanks for sitting through this. But honestly, it's like the most complicated, not complicated. It's the most in-depth. This is much more in-depth than a path. There's a lot more nuance to it. Like paths are typically like, hey, you get to do this unique skill, and you do all of these normal skills, but you do them better. That's what paths are typically are. This is like a whole skill set. It's a whole lower pool. It's a completely different play style than the normal play style. Which is why that this video is probably going to be pretty long. We're at 50. We're about to hit 56 minutes now. Hopefully we can get this in under an hour. Okay. Strike the mind. Mastered. Oh, yeah. I remember what this does. Yeah, it's okay. Um, it's like okay. It's pretty good actually. Um, pretty good. Uh, Mastery of it's okay. It's a 10 build skill, which means this is 100 research to master. So it's gonna take you like if you had 50 research, which I do not recommend doing, you're gonna have this in 2 games. If you have 25 research, which I'd say is about where you want to sit at 25 research, please don't dump more. I have 60 research and it's a regret. I regret that like a ton. I regret having 60 research on my freaking character sheet. Uh, so this would take 4 games to master, and Faint would also take 4 games to master. And Disable Body would also take 4 games to master if you had 25. It'd take a hot minute. It takes a hot minute. Um, it took me a couple years worth of playing to do that, because like 4 games is 2 months, right? So like every 2 months you get one of these cool skills. The cool thing is that like TK is only 10 research. Uh, so you get like the TK one immediately, and if you have 25, 5 times 5 is 25. Uh, it's 10 times the total cost of research. So it's like 50 build. So you get it in 2 games, which is if you play both games, Indiana and Michigan, that's 1 month. So like 1 month you pick up. So you go like 1 month hand and feet, 1 month equilibrium, 1 month evade, 1 month agility, 1 month, not even 1 month telekinetic armor, 1 month augmented blows, and then uh strike the mind and disable body. You sit on those for like a hot minute. That's what I did. I couldn't tell you, like I've mastered I've mastered everything but meditation, so I don't know what meditation does. Mastered. Hopefully it's good. Um, but between the tens, um, I'd honestly say that all of the tens are kind of equal. Like you want all of the masteries on those just as much as you want the masteries on the other tens. So it really, without going into like Foig what they actually do, um, like I couldn't tell you which one you would want to do first. Honestly, it completely depends on like what your character concept is, and you wouldn't know it anyway. So just go in blind. Honestly, just pick one of the 3. It doesn't really matter. They're all really good. Like they're all really good. So yeah. And then Zen Mastery. So keep in mind, if you're a Nullifidian doing meditation, 10 minutes meditation restores your TK. So if you had 0 TK, like you took 350 damage or 250 damage, whatever you had your TK at, and you had 0 of it, or you got restricted and it dropped to 0, And when you get unrestricted, it does not pop back up, by the way. It's just you're at 0, as if you had shattered all your armor. Meditation gets all your TK back. When you learn Zen Mastery, which you cannot master Zen Mastery, okay? You cannot spend 50 research to master Zen Mastery. Completing a meditation heals you to full. You may now teach the Zen path, and you may now master your skills. So, I'm going to be completely honest with you. If you are a Zen person, like if you're a new Zen person, and you walk in, and you've had a couple games, so you have a couple you have like some build built up, right? And you want to like learn the rest of the Zen paths. If you find my character, I have 60 research that I'm not spending anything on anytime soon. I will teach you the skills. Please don't buy more than 25 research, okay? Don't build more than 25 research on your character sheet unless you plan on going Bard. Which there are plenty of reasons to not go Bard. Please don't go Bard. Well, sorry. Go Bard if you want to. I'm going to go Bard because it's the only path available to me. Because, why not pick up more skills? And I want to play the harmonica and do cool roleplay stuff. And also, the research skill on Bard is actually kind of nuts. Actually kind of nuts. You also get to be immune to mute, which is neat. But yeah, we just broke over the hour mark. I'm going to talk a little bit about Zen and the trade-offs to being a Nullifidian and playing Zen. So, I just realized I made dinner and I haven't eaten it yet. Shit. Okay, we're gonna make the Nullifidian talk about Zen really quick. So the trade-off is that when you play, it's the same thing as a Nullifidian trade-off. Okay, Zen, you're looking at the Zen path, but if you're playing a human or like Gargoyle or another race, okay, that isn't a Nullifidian, the spells Pin, Bind, Web, Entangle, Imprison, Impenetrable Fortress, Magic Maelstrom, Limb Loss, not Limb Loss, and all of the also rituals, okay, your answer to those are dodge, and that's more dodges, okay? Like, you have to dodge more things. The trade-off is that you get, like, repel weapons. So when somebody goes sever limb on you, you go, repel weapon. I didn't spend any pool to do that. Or, being healed by magic. Like, it's just all of the you get all of the normal Nullifidian trade-offs, okay? But it's particularly relevant when you're playing Zen because Zen gives a shit about being Pin, Bind, Web, Entangled, Imprisonable, Impenetrable Fortress, Magic Maelstrom, Ice Fortress, rituals, certain other rituals, trip effects, okay? And Zen powers, unless otherwise noted, cannot be utilized when you're restricted in movement, okay? So when you're playing a Nullifidian, okay, let's just theoretically, you're fighting a Zen user. What is the first thing you do? I spam the shit out of them with magical entangles. That is the first thing I do. The absolute first thing I do is spam the shit out of them with magical entangles, okay? And their whole character sheet just gets poofed, turned off, okay? And now they're a sitting duck, okay? Unless they want to spend... The problem for them is that their answer to all of those is dodging for 10. The answer to all of those is dodging for 10, and Entangle is normally it's like a rank 7, I think. Or you throw like Bind or Web or any of this shit. You throw Entangle, I'm pretty sure Entangle is like 7. Okay? Or Confine, which is like 8. Okay? So like 8 and 7 to 10, you're winning the pool ratio. So every time they dodge is a win for you. Because 10 psionic, when you have 100 psionic endurance, that's 10 dodges. Okay, that's only 10 dodges. But like keep that in mind. Let's see, 7 times. Let's say 7 times 10 is gonna be 70. Okay, cool. Yeah, whatever. So theoretically, if you threw 10 entangles for 7, and they had 100 psionic endurance, you're effectively matching them for 70 build worth of pool when they used 100 pool, right? Okay. And if you have, so that means that if you had 100 pool and they also had 100 pool, and you spammed the shit out of them with entangles, they would take an entangle before you ran out of pool, which leaves you more pool to kill them after they take your entangle. Which is pretty good. Uh, right? So okay. Anyway, that's the trade-off to being. That's why you go Nullifidian. Okay, Nullifidian is kind of viable without Zen, and Zen is kind of viable without Nullifidian. You can go like Gargoyle Zen. Like Gargoyle Zen is really good. The first guy that I met that wasn't also Nullifidian who was doing Zen was a Gargoyle. His name is his own name, and I will not mention it because I care about people's privacy at LARP. But they're a Gargoyle doing it, and like it's real good. Oh my gosh, I didn't even talk about Disable Body. You get a strike for Crush Limb for 5, or you get a strike for Paralyze from 5. Ignoring the requirement of the rogue skill that it must be struck from behind, you get a Paralyze from the front for 5. It's actually broken. It's actually fucking broken. It is one of the best attacks in the game. Kinda. It's shit against fucking no metabolism, which is all I've been fighting recently, but it sucks against no metabolism or elementals, but it's really good against anything else. But yeah, paralyzed from the front for 5. That's what you actually care about. This is fucking nuts. Okay, sorry. Back to it. If you're a Zen user and Zen is like kind of viable if you're not a Nullifidian. Like it's a pretty solid pathway. If you're a Nullifidian and you go Zen, it's really good. Like Zen, like Nullifidian is kind of good. You know, like it has some really strong trade-offs. And if you go bodyguard, it's like kind of nuts. Um, and Zen is like a pretty unique pathway, kind of. And if you're like a certain race, like Gargoyle, or if you're like an Elf race, or a Folk, or if you're an Illithid, it's like really good on Illithid. Because you care about not wearing armor because you already have some of those detriments and stuff. Um, you're like, oh yeah, like this is pretty synergistic with some other races. Like Nullifidian Zen, you're taking like a suboptimal non-Zen and you're taking like a suboptimal Zen and you're squishing them together and you get like the perfect maelstrom of like goodness. I really like playing Nullifidian Zen. Um, I would reckon that it's too strong. I would actually agree if somebody came up to me and was like, "Hey, this combination of race and skills is too strong and we should probably change some of the skills to make it a little bit weaker." I would not disagree. Do I want that to happen? Not really. Have I had anybody walk up to me and be like, "You're too broken. This isn't fair"? No, I have not had anybody walk up to me and do that yet. I haven't. So it's like riding the edge of being a little too good is where I would put it at, in my personal opinion. And there's other people that look at Zen and go like, "Yeah, that's dog shit. Why would I take a freaking skill that gives me 3 detriments and I have to spend 50 build into armor when I can just pay money for armor for free and I can spend all that build on pool?" And they would be pretty right. They would be pretty correct. There are some very unique trade-offs that you take for being Zen. Um they're not wrong, but they're also wrong. Is what I would say to them. But yeah, we're about to hit an hour and 10 minutes. Nullifidian Zen, I think, is completely different than most of the other Zen races that you could play, or like races that you would play and then go Zen. Um, I'd highly recommend sitting down, reading. Like, Zen is at a spot where before the rework, I would have been like, don't go Zen. I don't care what your game plan is. It's actually bad. And now there are people retiring characters, like old characters, and being like, well, what can I do for fun? And would be a cool skill set. And they're looking at Zen and they're going, yeah, that looks like what I want to do. And now there's like 5 or 6 people running around using Zen now, and it's actually really good. And I'm the only Nullifidian doing it right now. So, like, that tells you something about how good it is when it's not Nullifidian. Um, but yeah, we're at an hour and 10 minutes. That was Zen. It's a pretty solid path. And it is, keep in mind, it is a path. You cannot have a focus, which blocks out 99% of the paths except for Bard. Um, and the neat thing is that at the end of the Zen path, you pick up research, and then Bard. The requirement to playing Bard is like be 100 build and be and have seasoned professional. Pfft, whatever. It's a scholarly skill. You can pick it up. It's like maybe another 10 build. So put 30 build into wow, this is 20 and not 25. That's neat. Put 15 or 30 build or whatever it is into seasoned professional, and then have 25 research. And then you get to where is it? Student of the Bardic College. That's the exclusive. I'm telling you right now, my game plan, my build plan is go Bard, and I'm exclusively spending my research on this skill. I'll sing and dance and stuff for fun. Uh, I'll grant other people dodges. This is actually like nuts. So theoretically, I'll be a Nullifidian Zen master that's immune to rituals, immune to spells. I have a fuck ton of armor and a fuck ton of body. I give other people, and then I can taunt things. I also picked up some will stuff, so I can throw psionics at things, and then I'm gonna go Bard, and I'm gonna be able to give AoE buffs to all of my friends, which sounds really good, honestly. And it gives me tons of roleplay. Like, we haven't really talked about the roleplay of Zen. Meditation is like the roleplay. Like, there's nothing in here that like gives you role play. So like meditation, how you meditate and how you decide to represent your meditation. There are certain representations of meditation that are like there's some people that let's see may sit still for 10 minutes with eyes closed, attempting to relax and center oneself if the character does not. Character may meditate anytime they are conscious and not hindered in movement. So some people read this and be like, yes, you have to have your eyes closed and you cannot move for 10 minutes. Which to them I say, that's fucking dumb. I'm going to do something else that's way cooler and roleplay about it. Um, like beating my bongo drums for 10 minutes or doing stretches for 10 minutes or, people meditate through a bunch of different ways in real life. And 90% of the time, I haven't ran into any plot marshals that give a shit as long as you're staying still in a generic area and you're not entering combat or talking to people. Okay? As long as you're not as long as you're not talking to people, you're in one spot ish and you're uh doing some roleplay thing, it counts. Okay? I've never seen a marshal go like, "You're not meditating right, idiot." Like I've never had a marshal say that in front of me. So, this is open-ish to interpretation from roleplay. I'm not an official plot marshal in any capacity, and a plot marshal could totally say, "No, idiot, you have to sit still for 10 minutes and close your eyes, and don't move a muscle." And I'd be like, "Well, them's the rules." But as far as I know, nobody's interpreted it that way in game. So yeah, uh, roleplay wise, there's not a whole lot of roleplay in Zen other than through meditation, which is also why I'm going Bard, because Bard gets a ton of roleplay, and I can play like a harmonica and help my buddies and have a really cool skill set on top of Zen, which is neat. So yeah, thank you for your time. This was an hour and 15 minutes. Holy fuck. And I just wanted to talk about Zen. I'm gonna skip the professionalism now because it's my YouTube channel, so I can do what I want, and I can give you all of the shitty opinions I have. So thanks for watching. Hopefully we'll start covering. We're either gonna cover spells or we're gonna cover production. We might, yeah, we're either gonna cover we're probably gonna cover production, to be honest. But also scholarly skills, kind of neat on there. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye bye.